Hello, everyone, and welcome to TSAM Digital. I'm Ana Luisa, and today I'm joined by Cordelia and Darrin from RWS. Welcome. Darrin, Cordelia, it's very exciting to have you with us today. I have a question firstly for Cordelia. Cordelia, can you briefly explain to us a little bit about RWS and what the company does to support the investment management sector in North America?
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks very much for inviting us to talk to you today. RWS is the world's leading provider of language-enabled technology, content technology, and intellectual property services. So with that, we serve, as you might imagine, a lot of industry sectors, but Darrin and I sit in the regulated industry space, which means, of course, by the name, that we work on content that's highly regulated for investment banks, asset managers, hedge funds, private equity, and life sciences firms. So for investment management, we've worked with and continue to work with some of the world's largest fund management companies, many of which are US based. And we've been doing that for around about 2 decades. We might work on anything from distribution and registration content, such as fund prospectuses, KID documents, right through to sales and marketing, so RFPs, pitches. And in a very simple way, I often say anything to do with content, to do with a fund in any format or medium is where we come in. And for US-based clients, we might either be helping them with the distribution aspect of accessing global markets and translating content relative to that, or we might be helping them with content for the US domestic market. So translation of content for into Spanish or into Portuguese, or for those investors for whom English might not be their native language. So a whole variety of work in that space.
That's really fascinating. Thank you. I have a question for Darrin. What kind of challenges do you see clients encountering when translating regulated content for global audience?
Yeah, thank you, Anna. I think one of the biggest challenges that our clients are facing is when keeping up with the changing regulations, in a secure, efficient, and effective manner. There's obviously, that would depend on the different jurisdictions that they're in, but at different times regulations are being changed, paused, restarted based off of different market drivers, and our clients have to keep up with that, and they have to put that into priorities and put what goes first, what goes second, and keep up with that, and making sure that their content remains throughout the entire process accurate, compliant, and consistent across all their different platforms. And they need to do that in a cost-effective way and an efficient way, so they're meeting regulatory deadlines, and they continue to improve their time to market so they can stay relevant and stay competitive. And this involves a number of different factors that they need to take into considerations, which we help a lot of our clients with, from the content creation, content control, which systems they're using, the partners that they're using for the various components, making sure that that's a cohesive unit. Leveraging the different technologies, particularly as it pertains to localization, translation memory, machine translation, and making sure that the taxonomy and the language is consistent and up to date, and then also making sure that they are doing that from content creation all the way through to all the distribution channels. So it's an ever-changing environment, and they need to keep up with it, and they need to partner with people that can help.
That sounds really interesting. And actually, I'm wondering, Cordelia, what trends are you witnessing in areas like ESG and accessibility remediation?
Well, unsurprisingly, ESG is one of the largest themes of discussion for our clients over the last 2 or 3 years. And we've seen a huge amount of activity around ESG in terms of SFDR, SDR as it is in the UK, reporting, disclosure, all of the compliance effort that's going around categorizing investments and investment funds, which we work on in all sorts of different languages, right through to thought leadership. So in an effort to compete in the space of ESG and sustainability, all of our clients have produced a really large amount of marketing content, thought leadership content, and so on. And accessibility might not seem an obvious partner in that, but in fact, the way we perceive it is that in terms of the E, that's been very much talked about. The environment is at the front of everyone's mind, particularly now with COP26 happening in Glasgow in the UK. Governance, of course, but the S is the social factor. So for us, thinking about content and translating it and making it available for a wide audience is not just about the language, it has to be about who is the content for. So thinking about those who are less able to read material on the screen or to hear material, that's something else that we're working on. So that's a way that making content more universally accessible is part of the social element of what our clients are also trying to do. So that ties into ESG as well.
That's really wonderful to hear. And I imagine you have a lot to keep up with. Darrin, I'm actually wondering, how do you keep up with the regulatory frameworks to which your investment managers are subject?
Yeah, thank you. That's definitely a challenge, and one that we are actively involved in. We stay up to date with the regulations, again, depending on different jurisdictions for our clients. We use our global team. We have subject matter experts that are focused on these different jurisdictions and different regulations, so that we are keeping up to date with the the regulatory bodies themselves. We're engaging with our clients in industry events. We're engaging directly with our clients on how these regulations are affecting them, and what changes it is having or impact it is having on their content, their products, their workflows. And then we're working with them, acting as a partner, but additionally as a consultant on how we can help make those changes and keep those changes involved and incorporated within their workflows, keep their content compatible, up to date, compliant with the regulations, and then develop transition plans so that we are well before these regulations go into effect. Our clients are ready to enact these plans and keep their content moving and adapting, evolving, and keeping current as these regulations are going into effect.
Thank you. And actually, going sort of looking forward, or with a forward-looking lens, Cordelia, what do you see as the next hot topics in the areas of financial reporting and disclosure?
Well, we've touched on ESG and we've talked about accessibility. I think those will continue to be hot topics. Every day we hear of a new type of disclosure requirement from the different regulators globally. But perhaps one interesting thing is that the European Union was a front runner, arguably, in the whole arena of disclosure and reporting, with the kind of concept that in order to prevent greenwashing, as it's popularly described, you have to have some kind of taxonomy or some kind of framework within which you operate. So SFDR in the European space was the leader in that. But the UK regulator announced, I think probably in tandem with COP26 very recently, that theirs is SDR, and also corporate reporting as part of ESG. So not just what asset managers have to disclose, but the corporates in which they invest also have to make those disclosures. But they're all different regimes. And though there have been many kind of announcements about how they will be harmonious, I think arguably countries want to be seen as being the leader in the decarbonisation net zero race. So the extent to which we make content and content disclosure accurate and it's comparable across all sorts of different products is something that you can only really do if you technically enable it to happen. And so that's where a provider like us, RWS, is looking very closely at using machine translation, AI tools and tech-enabled tools in order to sort of hold all of that content, make it searchable, make it structured, and make it comparable in any language. So that's, I think, where we'll be looking in the next couple of years.
What tips would you give to investment managers on how they can efficiently translate content for audiences requiring languages other than English?
Yeah, thank you. Great question. I would think first and foremost, think about localization at the outset of the process. Don't think of it as a separate component, a separate process that happens outside of your content creation, or the creation distribution of the English. Think of it as an integrated process. So by that I mean identify all the different components that you're going to need that are going to come into play. Understand the different jurisdictions that are going to be in play, the different languages that are going to be involved, the different technologies that are going to need to be used either internally as part of the regular workflow, but then also additionally as part of the translation workflow, whether that's a translation management system, whether that's a machine translation memory, et cetera, so that you can incorporate those into the workflows. You'll need to look at as the different languages, how you're going to manage those languages, making sure you're using the correct taxonomies, that you're using the approved languages, that you're bringing in the experts, the human assets, the linguistic assets that understand the content, that are up to date on the regulations and can translate that content. And then you're also coordinating with the various stakeholders internally and externally. And importantly, you're bringing in an expert localization provider that does this and can help you coordinate all of these resources, coordinate all of these components, and really develop a process alignment, language alignment, resource alignment, so that you have a cohesive workflow from start to finish. You're understanding what the deliverables are at the end of the chain. What are the different languages, what are the different formats, what are the different distribution channels? You're thinking about that at the very beginning, and the entire workflow is built to get to that end process so that the English is delivered and all of your other languages are delivered in a most effective and efficient process.
Thank you so much, Darrin and Cordelia, for this wonderful conversation today.
Thank you. Enjoyed it.